gonna be honest with you guys. I'm probably the last person on earth who should speak about stillness. Because I have a hard time standing still. When I was a kid, I remember like it was Johan, tate quieto. I don't know how many Latinos we have in the room, but like growing up, that's how my abuela, we would go to church and I couldn't stand still. Like it was like we're in church and I'm like kneeling, standing, doing this, right? Like I'm just like, I'm dancing and I'm going to get the Eucharist, like let's do this, right? I'm just getting turned up with the wine, like, yeah, and my grandmother, I was like, stay still, you can't do that here. This is not the place to do that. So, okay, then maybe I'll go with my mom to the grocery store, and it was the same thing. Going to the grocery store, I'll get like cereal, I'll start eating it from the box. Like I was that type of kid. Even in class, I had a teacher, her name was Sister Guadalupe. And no lie, guys, so she was straight from Ecuador, and this is the way that she would call on us in class. So we would raise our hands and she would say, yes, you? And so mind you, like, we're all fifth graders and we have our teacher go, yes, you? And for us, like, we're dying laughing because here's this woman who's giving us the finger in the middle of class. I could not sit still. So Sister Guadalupe, she developed an idea that I'm sure maybe some of you guys have heard, where the teacher was like, here's what we're gonna do. Because you guys can't sit still, because you guys are all over the place, she developed that system of, I'm gonna put your name on the board, and then when you act up, I'm gonna put a check by your name. Did any of you guys have a teacher like that? Yeah. Right? I'm gonna put your name on the board, you act up, I'm gonna put a check by your name. So I was that kid who was all over the place. And she said, if there's 3 checks by your name, guess what? You're going to the principal's office. Now here's why that mattered to me. Because if I go to the principal's office, who's gonna come get me? My mama. And what does my mom do? I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. My mom, so she's a Puerto Rican woman, she's 5'1", but my mom does not play. Here's a small story about my mom. Well, I grew up in a really tough area in Chicago, and there was a guy who was, this is no lie, he had a different kind of piece that I was talking about. He had his piece, he was shooting on the corner at another rival gang. I was on the stoop with my mom. You know what my mom does? She ran after this dude. 5'1" little Puerto Rican woman running after this guy. And so I'm 10 years old. I'm on the stoop like, where did my mom just go? She's gone for 10 minutes. She comes back. And I'm like, Mom, like, where'd you go? Like, I ran after him. I was like, but what were you going to do? She said, I was going to make a citizen's arrest. So this is the woman that's going to pick me up, right? I'm in class, and usually I've learned this method of being in class where I would get 2 checks, and for the 3rd check, I'm acting smooth, like no more trouble. I had that pattern. But this one particular day, I got cocky. I was like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, right? And I started talking to my friend, Sister Guadalupe was like, yes, you get another check, right? So then I got the 3rd check, and now in my mind, I'm like, oh no, my mom's gonna pick me up, and she's gonna beat the living daylights out of me, right? Like, she's gonna break my spine for this thing, right? So in my mind, I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I had this genius idea. I went up, and I'm like, I told my friend, I'm gonna go erase the checks from the board. So I waited for her to turn around. She turns around. She's like writing on the board, and I go like Mission Impossible status, right? I'm like dun 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 dun, and so I go up, and I erase the checks in ninja stealth mode, and so I'm on my way back because I'm getting away with it. Sister Guadalupe grabs me, and no lie, and she wasn't a big woman either, but I wasn't a big guy at the time. She's just like, what are you doing? And then she just she straight up flung me. So now I'm, at the time I'm probably like 4'11". And she flung me, and I was like, did she just really throw me like this? So I'm like going across the room, and I remember like doing a spin, no lie. I felt like I was just spinning the whole time. I was like, man, she's strong. I didn't expect this. And no lie, my face hit the wall. And I turn around, and my nose is bleeding. I'm a little 5th grade kid who just got a beat down from a nun. But in my mind, as I see the blood, I'm like, oh, I ain't gonna be in trouble no more. Because my mom's gonna come and she's gonna get on her and not me, right? And you better believe that my mom came through and she gave her a piece of her mind. And what was fascinating to me is, Sister Guadalupe, she did her job to make me stay still. But the thing that couldn't change about me at that time in my life is I still wasn't being still. And it's funny how sometimes life is like her. It forces us to stay still. Like, you ever been injured? You ever been sick and you can't move? But does that mean you're still internally? How many of us have developed a practice of being still? Even though life can force you to sit still, stay down, or not move, you can be sick and still be, well, I need to get up. Maybe I'm just going to binge on Netflix. So what I did, Joey, he had the idea for this event. So my brilliant friend who is an amazing artist, he was like, I want to put together an event on stillness. And then there was this part of me, because I speak for a living, I coach for a living, and I was like, you know what? I wanted the challenge of speaking. And I wanted the challenge of, like, what will my life look like if I didn't just allow life to force me to be still, if I actually developed a way of being still as a guy who loves to produce, who loves to create, who loves to be on the move, what would it look like if I was just actively being still? And what does that mean? Because being still is one of these invisible realities, right? Like, does anybody have the answer here? It's like, how do you be still? Sleep. Go to sleep. What's the farthest, like, for all the people that came here, who traveled the farthest to be here? Does anybody know? Like, did anybody travel 2 hours to be here? Right there, right here, 2 hours. Austin, Texas, all right, there we go. Austin, Texas in the house. So I have a lot of friends that actually said they didn't want to come tonight. They live in LA, and some of my friends were like, nah, man, that's too far. Like, and we got Austin, Texas in the house. But I want to say, we are extremely grateful that you're here. Like, we don't take it for granted that you guys took time out of your schedules to be here. And with that, I do want to ask this question, though. You showed up, but are you here? Does that sound weird? Like, how many of us have developed a way of life where we show up, but we're not really there? Where we have conversations with people and we're nodding our head, but we're like, maybe I got to take out the trash later, like, or does my breath smell? Or why does this guy keep talking so much? We do it in conversation every day where there's a lack of presence. And part of what I've learned in this process of being still is one of the most important factors is our presence. Where it's easy to be in places, it's something totally different when we are actually there. And it may be weird for me to say this, but it shows up in so many different forms of life. Have you ever kissed somebody who's not really there with you? That's not a good kiss, right? Like, it's like one of the worst things that you could experience because they're on their own thing, you know? They're just like boom, boom, boom. They got their tongue, they got their tongue on your eyes and like all kinds of stuff. And you're like, this is not an enjoyable experience because that person is there in front of you, but they're not present. How many of us, if we started to actually be still, would develop a life of being right here? I mean, is it a struggle as I talk? Because like I said, this is a lost art form where people get in front of people and actually like start to share stories and communicate ideas. Part of what we struggle with is all the things that are competing in our mind right now to be like, do I really want to listen to this dude? And like, I got so many other things to do. And why is he talking for so long? Like, that hat is weird. Does he really have to wear a hoodie with that suit? Like, that's not the, like, there's so many things going down, right? And we're here, but we're not really here. And I had a moment, because like I said, this has been a month process of like working on being still where I am a big time extrovert. So right now I'm soaking everybody's energy in the room. And I love being around people. So this was so hard for me because I found moments where I was like, I'm just going to be alone. I'm just going to get quiet. I'm not going to have music distracting me. And there was one day where I turned everything off. There was no distractions. And I just started to be so still. And I could feel so many emotions swirling inside of me. And I don't know if you've ever felt this, but like I started to feel this pain that was deep inside my soul. You know, like some of the things that I know that I've done wrong in life, and it started to connect to, I live in this world where there's so many people who are hurting, where there's so many people who long for love, where there's so much war, where there's so much grief. And I just started to bawl. I just started to cry by myself, grown man in my room, with that like, you know, like that heaving cry. And what I realized in that moment as well was like, this is probably why we don't like to get still. Because we don't want to feel our feelings. This is part of why we don't like to be here. We like to be present. I mean, we like to be in the room with you, but not really there, because we don't want to feel our feelings. And what would happen to our life if we actually started to be still and feel the feelings inside of us, especially as a man? Because we're told, yeah, you don't do that stuff. There's a film called Beautiful Boy. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but one of the like my mom loves to go see movies with me, and we decided to go see Beautiful Boy, which it wasn't the best holiday decision, because Beautiful Boy is a very sad, heavy film. And again, in the movie, I cried about 60% of the time. It's a movie about a father and son, Nick and David Sheff, and they struggle through their relationship with addiction. Like, the son is basically a meth addict, and the dad is trying to figure out, how do I show up for my son? Like, my little boy is addicted to meth, and I don't know how to help him. So there's times where obviously his son calls up, and what do you think dad's gonna do when your son calls up and he's like, come pick me up? Dad goes and picks him up, right? There are times where the son breaks into the house and steals things from the home, from the family. The dad knows it happened, but he's like, you know, that maybe he needs that to eat. And his dad is struggling with, what do I do to help my son? This little boy, this beautiful boy that I have is dying. I don't know how to help him. I don't know what to do. And there comes a point where he kind of realizes something. It's close to the end of the film, obviously, and his son calls him up, and he says, Dad, I need you to pick me up. I'm done with this. Like, I can't do this anymore. And his dad says, I'm sorry, I can't. I can't do it anymore. There's a psalm that says, be still and know that I am God. You probably heard it before. In Hebrew, the word still means release and let go. In that story, the father needed to let go of his son in order to help him. Some of us, you know, we walk into these spaces and we don't know how to let go. We don't know those parts of our life that are nagging us, that are bitter, that are resentful, that are maybe full of rage. You fill in the blank of the thing that's tormenting us. I wonder, as we stand in this room, what do we need to let go of? What will help us be still in our life? Won't we say, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore? Because there are parts of our life that keep calling us, and what do? We do the same old thing over and over again. We respond the same way, and it doesn't work. How many of us, in order to be still and finally get free, need to say, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to let go. I'm going to release. So I'll ask the same question as I close, and we can go back to partying. Where is your peace? Where is your peace on this evening? Be still and continue partying, y'all. Andre.
Thank you for your inspirational.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
And your Boricua.
I am. Are you?
Yeah, I was like, Boricua. You
What?
didn't hear me.
No, I
was
didn't.
Yelling, and I was like, my mom's Puerto Rican too.
Really? Yeah. Thank you for coming out. You came from where?
From Long Beach.
From Long Beach. So this is your hood. You're ready. This is you just skipped and jumped over here, right? So no, thank you for coming through. I appreciate that.
That was
Did you hear it from the side?
Yes.
Did it work?
You were killing it.
Oh well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Like
It was
tear,
good?
it was like a tearjerker.
It was like a tearjerker.
I wanted
Almost?
to cry.
Almost.
I
You
almost did.
see, you gotta feel your feelings. You're like almost. You're like, oh wow.
Gotta go back to San Diego.
The journey.
The journey of
Well, thanks for coming through,
Yeah,
man. I
man. Thanks
appreciate
for the invite.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
sure.
It was good.
It was good?
It was worth it.
It was worth it. Okay.
It was worth it.